Hello, everybody. Chuck and Pam back with another podcast, and we are right in the midst of the busiest time of the year. I'm watching at least one, maybe two movies a day. I don't know about you, Pam, but they send us everything in advance because they need us to vote for end of the year awards, and it is just feast or famine, and we are definitely feasting right now. So we're going to sort through some things for you because I know that in the next few weeks, you guys will be inundated with choices as well, because the studios always hold back so many things at the end of the year. So, as I've said, we suffer so you don't have to. Let's shuffle through some things. Pam, what do you want to start with?
Let's go ahead and start with The Order. This is a movie that kind of struck me pretty hard.
Me
Um,
too.
I was able to watch it right after the election, and it was probably, I mean, literally the day after the election, and it really kind of hit home a little bit too hard. This is about an FBI agent who's really at the end of his career. He's got a lot of personal stuff going on as well. And this character is called Terry Husk. And this is played by Jude Law. This is based on a true story, but all of these characters are amalgams of different people. So they don't represent an actual character, but it is based on a true story. Terry Husk is transplanted into this are we in Washington? Is that where we are in the state of
You were
Washington?
in Washington, yeah, the Pacific Northwest.
Okay, in the Pacific Northwest. And it seems like a sleepy little town, and he stumbles upon a white supremacist group who is basically terrorizing the communities around by robbing banks and car heists and all sorts of horrible stuff, as well as planning some incredibly disturbing events. Husk takes in this young police officer, Jamie Bowen, played by Ty Sheridan. He brings in his former partner, Joanne Carney, an FBI agent, played by Journey Smollett, to help him as he sees a lot of events happening that he knows that he needs to undertake. This is a very disturbing film. It's a franchise, a break off of a Christian right wing, and we've got Nicholas Hoult, who plays Bob Matthews, who is that person who's a fraction or a faction off of this right wing Christian fact. We watch how things spiral out of control. We watch how these three people on the right side of the law try and reason with and understand and basically take over and save the town, if you will. To watch the rationale of these white supremacists and how they treat others is extraordinarily disturbing. And to see how this group of people can think that someone is less than them is just heartbreaking. And what this small group of three trying to make things right and to try and create a peaceful and safe community, it's a heartbreaking tale. And I think it really just hit me so hard because in our world today, there's just so much hatred and so much judging of other people, and to see how fear and propaganda and brainwashing from a young age can really impact who we become as adults. I felt like Jude Law transformed himself into this character of Terry Husk. Ty Sheridan did an amazing job of being this innocent, sweet, naive, yet aware young officer who is married to a woman who is not white, not Caucasian, which creates yet another dynamic. And Journey Smollett, who is Joanne, an officer, she's got her own issues to deal with. And together, these three have a dynamic that is insightful. I can't say I enjoyed this film, but I think it's one that we should see. The acting is great. The ambiance is incredible, bringing us into rural America, which is more than 50% of our country. And I think it's something that we all need to see to understand where hatred comes from and how it can get out of control. And I had an interview with all of those three characters, our main three characters. And you can check that out on our website, realtalkwithchuckandpam.com.
Those interviews are really good because you asked them questions that allowed them to talk about how they came to understand these people. And I thought that was the most interesting aspect. You know, it was funny. I was reading an article about this movie today, and the director, Justin Kurzel, said that him witnessing January 6th was one of the impetuses for him to make this film. He said, you know, just as you're talking about where we are today and all that's going on, this couldn't be more timely. It does a pretty good job of getting us to understand why people can be seduced by this. I wanted a bit more information about that, but it does delve into that. And these three really do hold it together. I think this is one of Jude Law's best performances. He really digs deep here, and he's almost unrecognizable at times.
Right.
And I really liked what he had to say to you about how he formed this character. Yeah, you know, it's not an enjoyable watch, but it's captivating.
It is. It is. I
It's-
was on every single word and every single
Yeah.
scene. I had to know how it ended up.
Yeah, I mean, if from the first scene, it hooks you, and you don't like what you're seeing, but you can't look away.
Right, exactly. So we had the order, and now we're going to go to the return because that is the Christmas season, orders and returns.
Origin return, very good. Look at you. That's why you get the big bucks, right?
That's right.
Uh-huh. The order, or I'm sorry,
Return.
the return. Thank you. The return is a retelling of part of Homer's The Odyssey. It really tells the second part of the story, as we are treated, as we see King Odysseus, played by Ralph Fiennes. He has washed up on the shore of Ithaca, and that's where the film picks up. We don't get any of the adventures with the Cyclops or the Sirens or any of that stuff. This is the last part of the story. He's taken in by a kindly shepherd, and he's informed of everything that's happened to his country since he left to fight the Trojan War. Things have fallen apart, the land is barren, houses are empty, people are disgruntled, and more importantly, his wife, the queen, Penelope, played by Juliette Binoche, she is still waiting for him. And we're talking 15, 20 years here. She is still pining for him, still convinced somehow that he is alive. And potential suitors have basically moved into the palace area where she lives. They're forcing her to make a decision, want her to choose one of them as the successor, and she keeps resisting. This breeds quite a bit of resentment in their son, played by Charlie Plummer. And he's a very interesting character because he's resentful towards his mother because she's hanging on to this notion that dad's still alive. He's upset with his father because he's never met him, so he's not been there to raise him, but also he's toiling in the shadow of this man, this king who everyone revered, who was known for his strength, known for his intelligence, and people are expecting him to be the same way. And this is an awful tall order to stand up to. The film deals with Odysseus returning, but also his hesitance to return. It's a bit frustrating at times because we're like, hey, dude, just go tell everybody who you are, take over again. It's not that simple. And one of the things that makes the film interesting is it's a more modern look at this. This guy's suffering from PTSD. He has changed completely. And I don't think he feels as though he's worthy of ruling over people anymore. He feels as though he has changed to the point that his wife is not going to recognize him and accept him. There's a lot going on here internally with Odysseus. And of course, Ralph Fiennes, one of our best actors. This was similar to what he does in Conclave as far as so much internalizing, but him being able to convey this inner turmoil in the way that only an expert actor can. The movie is frustrating at times. I'm not going to kid you. It moves too slowly. And we are left to question intentions and lack of action at times. I kept equating this to Hamlet. Like, dude, come on, let's go. Let's move, man. But again, I'm going to recommend it barely simply because I like the new approach it takes as far as looking at the effect war has, not just on the warriors, but on the people who are left behind. on the societies that are affected by that. It really has a lesson and a warning that we need to heed. I hope we don't need to heed it in the near future, but I'm not really confident of much of anything anymore. And hey, the classics are the classics because they continue to resonate. They have universal messages, universal themes in them, and the Odyssey certainly is that. So kind of on the fence on the return. I would say, though, if you like Ralph Fiennes or Juliette Binoche, definitely check it out. They're fantastic.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
It's been a while since I've read Homer's Odyssey, although maybe I never read the whole thing. But I know that I've seen plenty of plays based on it or about it.
Right.
Can you tell me, is this story part of Homer's Odyssey? His return?
Yeah. Yes, it is like I say, it's the second part.
It is. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's chopped up into various, they don't call them chapters, but they call them books. This is
Okay.
book 13 to 28. It's the last.
Okay.
And I think that's why they call it the return, not the Odyssey, because they're just dealing with him once he sets foot on the island and everything he has to contend with before he takes over the kingdom again.
Okay. I was frustrated by it. I'm glad that I watched it at the end, and what you're saying about PTSD and the warning of war, and in my mind while I'm watching it, I'm like, people just don't change. This was relevant when, and it is relevant now, and we never seem to learn from history. We are doomed as a society, as humanity. That's what I gained from it. It was way too slow, and I was too unsure of how people were perceiving some things, especially Penelope. I was very frustrated by her performance, Juliette Binoche. I just really was unsure as to what she was thinking and feeling, because she's pining for her husband. She hopes, she puts all of her life and all of her effort into his return. And then when she does realize that it's him, she doesn't say, "Oh my God, I missed you so much. Come here." There was no come hitherto. It was a little confusing, but I wasn't sure. Did she recognize him or did she not? And I never got a clear picture until the end.
Okay. I was saying, because is she stunned though by once she recognizes him? Is her enthusiasm or love tempered by the fact that he's changed so much and this is not the man that she remembers? I mean, I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
Yeah, it could very well be. I don't know, and that's what frustrated me, is that I didn't know. I mean, even his own mother didn't recognize him until she saw the boo-boo on his knee.
Right, the scar.
Yes.
I
And
think
there's a vocal quality that just doesn't change over time. There are nuances to personality that just don't change. And so the fact that there was no recognition except for by the dog, who then dies.
oh God, wasn't that heartbreaking? Jesus.
I know.
I almost warned you of that because I saw this a little bit before you.
Yeah. Whenever an animal dies, please let me know.
Yeah. I just thought the key moment in the film is when she asks, why does it take men so long to return from war? And he says, for some. Why does it take men so long to return home from war? And he says, for some, war becomes home. I'm like, there it is. That's it. That's it. I mean, he's changed so much that he was reveling in this. And I just don't think he feels as though they will accept him. I think that's part of the problem.
Well, and I understood that. I did have to text you to say I don't get this part, and you Chuck explained it to me, as I call it, and
I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you. I think if it would have moved a little bit more quickly, but it relied too much on nuance, and sometimes the nuance wasn't there.
I agree. I agree. I'm not. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Definitely on the fence. I'm leaning over onto the left side of the fence. You're leaning on the right side of the fence.
So we even each other out there.
We do. I really want to talk about Nightbitch. I'm not sure how you feel about Nightbitch. I know that this is it might make my top 10 movies of the year. I'm not sure yet. I haven't made my list. I still have a couple more movies to see, but it is up there. Mariel Heller is a favorite writer and director of mine. She gave us Can You Ever Forgive Me from a few years ago that I loved, and I still can watch that movie now and love every minute of it. And the same is true with Nightbitch, starring Amy Adams and Scoop McNairy. Amy Adams plays Mother. She doesn't really have a name. Her name is just Mother. Her husband, Scoop McNairy, is played by, I mean, he's just husband. He doesn't have a name either. And that is very intentional. Mother is now a stay-at-home mom for an adorable little 2.5-year-old or 2-year-old or somewhere thereabouts. And she has given up her career as an artist in order to stay at home because unfortunately her pay doesn't really break even with what she would pay for daycare. I found myself relating to so many aspects of this movie because I was in the same position. I would have made $10 a week if I would have put my child into daycare. So I stayed at home. And I'm very grateful for doing that. I know everyone has a different opinion on that, but this shows how difficult it is to be a stay-at-home mom when you give up one part of who you are. This deals with identity and how your child, no matter how much you love your child, can just suck the living daylights out of you, literally and figuratively. We see the routine, we see the mind-numbing routines that she goes through. And then we also see, and here's the Nightbitch part, we also see her transform into, we think she becomes this dog-like creature, and she interacts with her child that way. And this is how she gets through finding out who she is again. Is this actually happening? Is it not? We don't know, because we also go into her make-believe world. One of my favorite scenes is in the very beginning when she runs into a past acquaintance at the grocery store. And she asks Mother, Amy Adams, "Oh, I bet you just love staying at home. Isn't it wonderful?" And she goes off on this huge tirade of like, "Oh my gosh, I've totally lost who I am. I don't know who I am. This little child is wonderful, but I really don't like him either. I'm resenting the fact that I'm staying at home with him." And she goes into this whole speech. And then we jump back into reality where she says, "Oh, it's awesome. I love every minute of it." And so all those things do go through your mind when you're staying at home with a child. Becoming a mother is one of the most difficult things to do, I think. And that balance is really hard to figure out. And I think that that's what Muriel Heller's screenplay does, and Amy Adams portrays perfectly, is how difficult being a mother is. I loved it. I've watched it 2 or 3 times now, and I think Amy Adams is incredible in it. I think she nails it. She also has a child. She's a 14-year-old daughter. And I wish that this movie was around when I was raising my kids, to know that I wasn't off my rocker, that I was thinking and feeling different things. I think if you're a mom, you're going to love it. I think if you're not a mom, you may be on the fence on this one. What do you think, Chuck?
I like the beginning. I thought the movie came out of the gate great guns. I was laughing. I was into it, and then it lost me. I just felt as though it became very repetitious. That this is really a simple thing. This should be over in 45 minutes. And it just kept beating me over the head with this problem. Again, I haven't gone through what you've gone through. Obviously, this film is gonna speak different to mothers than it is to men, no question about it. But I just felt as though it just was spinning its wheels. She's great. She's always great. You know, I never have a complaint with her. I was, you know, I guess maybe I'm wrong, but again, another movie in which all men are idiots. You know, especially the husband, he's hapless. So, you know, I guess maybe I have a complaint with that, but I don't know if it's valid or not.
Well,
I
I think that is, I want to talk about Scoot McNairy a little bit, playing the husband, and he's in a no-win situation. He tells,
That's not true.
no, okay, in one scene where she says, "I think I'm just going to give up being an artist." And he goes, "Okay, if that's what you,"
Yeah.
and then it comes back to bite him in the ass. And that wasn't fair of her, I don't think.
No, but I think that when she called him on it, what she said was true.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
True.
It was a wonderful dynamic and conversation, dialogue that happened between the two of them that should have happened before they had kids, and unfortunately happened too late. and then how they each try to understand who the other one is and understanding equality in parenting. That's a tough balance, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, it's the traditional, he goes out so that they can survive to earn a living and everything. But yeah, then the resentment's going to build. Where are you? Why aren't you around? You're not helping. It is a tricky, dicey thing, no question about it. And again, I feel bad for coming down on this one, but again, it just was like it seemed to be the same joke or the same thing every time.
No,
Every time.
I didn't see
Every
that.
time.
I just saw it become more accentuated. And then it grew with how important female friendships are and mentors. We have Jessica Harper, who plays the librarian, and she becomes this kind of remote mentor. And
Thank you. Remote mentor. That is a good term
thank
because
you.
I wanted more of her and her story.
Okay.
So
And I just think that whole female bonding and understanding what you're going through and being honest with each other, that didn't happen immediately. And I loved watching the growth of all of the characters. So I didn't think it spun up its wheels at all.
but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did, very much so.
You need to make sure to post your review on Rotten Tomatoes to skew this score, okay?
I see
Because
that it's not doing well, and I sad to
and
see.
that I think has affected the release plans of this film.
Say again?
And I think that has reflected the release pattern of this film.
Probably, probably. When does this release? So it releases Friday in theaters
It
only.
was supposed to release wide tomorrow. Now it's just in select theaters like Chicago, New York, and LA. So,
Okay. All
so
right.
they're back on their heels. I hope that it eventually gets a wide release.
I hope so too. And I will definitely post my review on Rotten Tomatoes tomorrow. What else do we have, Chuck? We've got
We have a little bit of an oddity. It'll be the last one this week. A movie called Flow, and it is from Latvia of all places. It is their official entry in the foreign language film category at the Oscars this year. And this is going to sound like a Disney movie, but it's not. It's about a cat and some dogs and a capybara and a secretary bird and a
what?
lemur.
What kind of bird?
Secretary bird.
I didn't know it was a capybara either. Kristen told me that.
Did you fall asleep in, like zoology class or something? I guess she did. Okay. It's an animated film. They all live in the same forest jungle area. The topography of this movie really changes radically at times. Living this, everything's fine. They're doing what they're doing until a massive flood comes through. Wipes out the entire area. Suddenly, they're all seeking high ground. Things aren't looking good, but a rowboat happens to float by, and the cat and the dogs get in the boat. They find the capybara there, and they're just letting the boat flow and float and take it where it's supposed to be. That is until the secretary bird shows up. Apparently, they're smart enough to steer a boat, which is cool, I guess.
Actually, not even just helming the boat, but that was a rudder. You got to
That's what I mean. Yeah, steering the boat.
direction to go, and that's a hard thing cognitively to do.
Obviously not for secretary birds. And they also pick up a lemur who has an affinity for human knickknacks. Again, this sounds like the incredible journey, how these animals are going to survive. But there's no dialogue. And that's one thing I really liked. I read this morning, actually, that apparently the filmmakers went to the zoo and other habitats and actually recorded sounds of real animals to put in the movie.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you read that because Louis watched almost the entire movie. Louis, for those of you who don't know, is my little Aussie, and he watched a lot of it.
My dog every once in a while would raise her head as though like, what was that?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
But here's the interesting thing. Apparently, to get a capybara to make a noise, you have to tickle it. So much tickling took place at the capybara cage. Unfortunately, apparently the noise that a capybara makes didn't suit the character in the film. They didn't think it suited, so they went back and recorded a camel. So yeah, just fascinating backstory on this thing. So there is this level of attention to detail in the film. And really, it's a simple story. It's a simple lesson, but one, again, that we need to be reminded of. You put aside your differences. You know, these
Right.
are all different species. Some are actually enemies in the wild. You got to put this stuff aside for the common goal of surviving. And that's what we see these animals do. Again, we need to be reminded of this. And animals, we need to take a simplistic approach to remind us of this simple thing. The animation I thought was a mixed bag.
Yes, I agree.
The cat looked great. I like the capybara. The water and the environment was great. The dogs didn't look finished.
No,
The
right?
dogs, I'm like, you got to, did we run out of money? I mean, the detail in the dogs it just wasn't there.
The eyes
And
weren't there.
right, and I hate to harp on that, but it just became a distraction.
Yeah.
Uh, there were so many other things done visually well, and they just stood out like a sore thumb. The movement was good. I thought their movements were all fine. So yeah, this is not, like I say, the usual Disney thing, but it's something a bit more. And this is one you're going to have to look for. But if you're looking for an alternative, if you've already seen Wicked and you're looking for something else, to take the kids to, Flow, you could do a lot worse.
I liked it. I was stressed during much of
Yes. Yeah,
I was
it's tense.
cat that looks like my daughter Kelsey's cat named Mara. I can't have Mara die. It was very stressful, and I found myself yelling at the TV saying,
Don't
"Don't
do that.
don't go down there. You know you can't swim."
And don't pick up those other dogs.
I know, right? You know that
The
they're
bird knew. The bird knew not to do that, but she did it anyway. Yeah.
so yeah, interesting. And I agree with you on the animation. It wasn't that much of a distraction to me. It didn't bother me that much, but I wish that they would have taken the time. Eyes can do everything. I thought the shading was weird on them. The
The
animation,
dogs. Yeah.
different animation. I don't know what it was.
Well, and the other thing is we've been spoiled.
Yes.
We see what can be done.
Yes.
So the bar has been raised, at least in my mind. Okay, hang on now. Yeah, that's not quite up to snuff.
Right. Right. So next week we've got quite a bit coming out to talk about. I don't know if we're going to talk about everything that's coming out. We've got September 5 as well. No, we do not have September 5.
Oh, that's in January.
No.
Yes. Look at the list I updated and sent to you.
And I just copied and pasted. I have the Carry On, Craven the Hunter, The Lord of the Rings, Maria, Queer, and September 5.
Really? Okay. Well, I'll send it to you again. September 5 is January 17th.
All right, never mind.
And I can't wait to talk about that when I watched it last night.
Good, good. I'm glad. I'm
Really
very
like
glad.
it.
Good. So
Yeah, we'll find something to talk about next week, at least Maria,
at least
which we need to hash out, and maybe Queer as well. I know we both have screeners to that. So
okay. Sounds good to me. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Real Talk with Chuck and Pam. That's REEL. You can also link up just going to our website, realtalkwithchuckandpam.com. You can take a look at Chuck's interview with
your interviews.
Right. Well, your interview with Carla Sofia Gascon from Amelia Perez is a beautiful, honest interview that I loved hearing about the making of that film and why that was important to her. And also my interview with Jude Law. Unfortunately, Chuck couldn't do that interview. He's the one that arranged it. And so I was his backup. Thank you, Chuck, because I loved talking with Jude Law and also talking with Journey Smollett and Ty Sheridan.
And you also have an interview from Moana 2 as well with one of the producers and actors.
I
So
did.
yeah, everything's just falling in our lap here.
It's kind of a crazy week. So check it out. Learn a little bit more about these movies that you're going to be seeing or that you have already seen. I like that gives you more insight into these films.
Exactly. All right. Until next week. See you all then.